Welcome to A Beginner's Guide to Meditation. My name is Daniel Lossie, and we're practicing today at Pranam Yogashala in the heart of the Blackstone District in Omaha, Nebraska. I'm joined by two students of meditation.
I'm Melissa.
I'm Lauren.
And today we're going to go through some of the basics of meditation together, hopefully to help you with your practice if you've never had a practice before to get started, or if you have been trying some things out to just take it to a new level. So first, I wanted to talk about what is meditation. Meditation is really a practice, much like when people go to the gym to work out. You go and you exercise your muscles, you do push-ups, you go for a run, and all of this helps you strengthen your muscles, build muscle tone. So meditation is really like a mental exercise, where when we practice it, we're strengthening our mind. We're really focused on three main things with meditation. It's attention training, awareness training, and kind intention training. And those three things can improve over time. There's a lot of great neuroscience, if you're a super nerd, about the changes that occur in the brain as we practice meditation. But it's also helpful to explain what meditation is not. Meditation is not three things. It's not the need to go off to some faraway land and sit cross-legged in the desert wearing a loincloth. You can do it in everyday clothes, in chairs, on the floor, and cushions, and we'll talk about posture in a few minutes. And it's also, so that's one, you don't have to go away anywhere to practice meditation. The second is that it doesn't have to take a lot of time. You don't have to practice meditation for hours and hours and hours to get benefits from it. Really, there's a couple different targets you could go for. When you're first starting practice and creating a new habit, the most important thing is to just do it every day for even just 1 minute. Find a time in your day that works really well for you and keep practicing for 1 minute, for 5 minutes, with the target of really trying to practice 20 minutes a day. There's a lot of benefits that come when you're able to practice 20 minutes a day. But have compassion with yourself. This isn't about beating yourself up, as we'll talk about in a little bit. This is really about a practice and the action of sitting down and taking time to meditate and continuing to sit down every day and practice this so that it ends up impacting the rest of your life in positive ways. The third thing meditation is it's not about stopping thoughts. We all have brains, and a natural state of a brain is for thoughts to arise. Yes, we can control thoughts. We can say, I'm going to think about this or I'm going to think about that. But even when we're still and trying not to think, thoughts naturally arise. So don't worry if you have thoughts when you meditate. It's absolutely normal, even with the most seasoned practitioners. Any questions about what meditation is or isn't?
Should you be focusing on one specific thing, or just kind of generally let whatever comes up come and try to let it go?
Yeah, that's a great question, Melissa. You could do either or. There's different types of meditation. Today, I'll do a guided meditation that will touch on both of those aspects. One aspect that you mentioned is focusing on one object, whether that's a candle, whether it's your breath, whether it's a sound, but finding an object of concentration and returning to that every time you notice your mind is wandering or a thought arises, which, as I mentioned, it naturally will. So the nice thing about an object of concentration is it gives you that focal point to return to. And as I mentioned, that meditation is like an exercise. Every time I notice my mind wandering, maybe it's for 1 second, maybe it's for 5 minutes, eventually I will kind of notice, oh, there I go again. And without judgment, I say, there I go again, and I return to my object of concentration. And every time I notice and return, that noticing returning is like the rep, like when you're doing a push-up. And the more you do that, the stronger those neural connections get. So there's a saying with brain science that neurons that fire together wire together. So the more that we practice something, the more default it becomes, the easier it becomes to do when we're not necessarily doing seated meditation. So think of all the times that you might get distracted throughout your day, and maybe you get distracted for a long time, whether it's on social media or daydreaming about something. With the practice of meditation, you're able to notice yourself doing these thoughts, having these thoughts, and return to what it is you want to focus on, whether it's reading a book or being in a conversation with a loved one or someone you care about, or doing a focused work project where you really want some concentration. So that's the focus of concentration. The other part that you asked about was just being aware of what's happening. So that's more of a neutral posture of the mind and just letting thoughts come and go as you please, which they will, right, if we pay attention to our mind. And that's the awareness training. And so one of the really fun things about that is just having this relaxed mind, letting thoughts come in, letting them go out, and starting to notice, how do they arise? How do they fall away? Is there a space between the thoughts? And just pay attention to the characteristics of your thoughts. Almost if you could step back from your mind and watch it like a movie. And if you're sitting in a movie theater, sometimes you're watching that movie and you get so caught up in it, you feel like you're part of it, and the whole theater disappears, the people sitting next to you disappear, you don't even pay attention to the chair that you're sitting in. And other times, you're aware that you're sitting in a movie theater, there are people around you, this movie is playing on the screen, and so that's that level of awareness one step back of, I'm watching a movie and I'm aware that I'm in a theater. So if we can, with practice of watching our thoughts, we can begin to see our thoughts almost like a movie playing where we're observing it and just watching them arise and fall away and noticing the space between. So that's the awareness training piece. The other piece that I like to help people understand how to interact with thoughts is, I'm going to ask you both to hold up your thumb. And the question I have for you is, do you have a thumb?
Yes.
That is the correct answer. You have a thumb. And for those of you watching, if you're doing this, we have thumbs, right? And the next question is, are you your thumb?
No.
Are you sure?
I think so.
That is also correct. You are not your thumb, but you have it. And the opposable thumb is a very great tool that you use probably every day. So this idea that we have a thumb but we aren't our thumb is relevant to our thoughts. Do you have thoughts? Mm-hmm. Do you have thoughts? I know I do. But the next question is, are you your thoughts?
No.
Great. Are you your thoughts? So often, it's easy for us to identify ourselves with our thoughts because our mind is thinking all day long. But if this is a little bit of a challenge to wrap your mind around, it's about how we relate to our thoughts. We are not our thoughts, but we have them, just like we have a thumb, but we aren't our thumb. And when we recognize that we have thoughts, we can start to relate to them in a healthier way, become into right relationship, rather than thinking, oh, I am all of my thoughts, all the stories going into my head are true. What happens when you fall asleep and you stop thinking? You don't stop existing. Same thing with feelings. We have feelings, like we have a thumb and we have thoughts, but we are not our feelings. And as we begin to understand that the feelings are a part of us, and they're very useful to have, they're great indicators of what we care about and what makes us afraid or what we love, we are not our thoughts and we are not our feelings. So we can start to understand that they come and go. Feelings come and go, thoughts come and go. And so if you ever get caught up, stuck in your thoughts, just remember that you have a thumb, but you're not your thumb. And you have thoughts, but you aren't your thoughts. Any other questions before we get into posture and kind of the practicalities of seated meditation?
Yeah, what advice do you have for people that may be frustrated throughout a meditation practice?
How
I tend
wonderful.
to get frustrated.
Yeah, how wonderful. That's my advice. So that frustration is one of those feelings, or maybe there are thoughts leading to that frustration. And so that is part of kind of stepping back and watching that on the movie screen play out, that, oh, how wonderful. In fact, I like that phrase because it's non-judgmental, whether it's a good thought or a good feeling or a thought that you don't like or it's unpleasant. Just tell yourself how wonderful. There I go again, feeling frustrated, and then return to your object of concentration. Okay. Or if you're just practicing awareness, let that feeling of frustration, really feel it, and just sit with it, and it will eventually pass because our thoughts and our feelings come and go. And then you start to begin to notice the changing nature of the mind. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you.
Of course. So let's get ready to practice. For those of you watching, there are a few things that are practical for practicing on the body side and then on the mind side. So we'll talk about the body first. Position is important because this isn't about torturing yourself. This is about being comfortable, especially if you're going to start to practice for 20 or more minutes. You'll see 3 different ways to sit right here: kneeling posture, a cross-legged posture, and in a chair. There's a few key things no matter how you're sitting to pay attention to. The first are the hips. Having your hips higher than your knees will be so comfortable for your body to sit for a longer period of time. If you have your knees up too high, you're creating an uncomfortable position in your hip joints. So if you'll notice, Lauren has her knees below her hips. Alyssa has her knees below her hips. If you're sitting on a chair and the chair's a little too short, maybe you can raise it up or sit on a cushion or a pillow. And I have 2 cushions. I have a pillow and I have a cushion underneath me that has raised my hips up above my knees. So hips above knees, number 1. Number 2, spine in a line, right? Kind of, if you imagine a string on the top of your head gently pulling upward, your spine is elongated and relaxed, but you want to have a position where your skeleton is holding you up and your muscles can be in a neutral position. So hips above knees, spine in a line, and relax. Letting your body just rest, letting your muscles rest. Let your breath be natural. You don't have to try to breathe extra long or extra fast or extra slow. Just a natural breath. And then eyes. I like to practice with my eyes open because the reason I practice meditation is so that I can be more present in my life outside of my practice, when I'm with my family, my kids, my coworkers, when I'm just enjoying life. And I live my life with my eyes open. I don't often have the opportunity to be like, hey honey, I know we're in an argument, I'm gonna close my eyes and center myself so I can be more present to you, although sometimes that works. But I live my life with my eyes open. So you can practice with your eyes open and feel free to blink, or you can practice with your eyes closed, whatever's more comfortable for you. Obviously, if you have a candle as your object of meditation, of concentration, having eyes open is gonna be helpful. And even though we practice stillness, it's essential stillness, so blinking is okay, and breathing is okay for movement. The first time I went to a meditation hall, the instructor was very strict about no movement, and they practiced with eyes open, and I honestly didn't know if I could blink or not. So I'm always very clear to people, it's okay to blink. But part of the practice of stillness of the body is that as we feel uncomfortable and we want to shift, it gives us that opportunity to check in and be like, oh, I'm feeling a sensation and it feels like pain, but maybe if I sit with that, it will start to change how I relate to this painful sensation. And most times, depending on how long you're sitting, you'll notice that it changes and it even goes away. So if you're really uncomfortable, please move. This isn't about torturing yourself. But if it's just a little pain or foot's falling asleep, which happens to everybody, just sit with it and see if you can end out your time in that stillness. The other piece is silence, practicing in silence. I'll be doing a guided meditation today to help kind of if you've never done this before, but typically it's silence and stillness. Any questions about body posture?
What if you want to lie down while you meditate?
You can lie down while you meditate. I personally don't recommend it because I fall asleep and the sleeping state is different than a meditative state, but some people really enjoy meditating while lying down. Again, it's about being comfortable, but when we're seated, we can be relaxed and comfortable but not fall asleep easily. So that's the body, and now let's talk about the mind. So one of the things that we've kind of alluded to is that we will have thoughts. And as our thoughts arise, just come back to the focal point when you notice, whether that's a second from now or 5 minutes from now. Just pay attention to your thoughts and notice and come back. And remember that meditation is more of a verb, and the state of being centered is not a steady state that you achieve and you stay in the whole time. It is a practice where, oh, I'm here, oh, there goes my mind, oh, bring it back. Some people like to think of it with an analogy of a puppy dog, right? You're teaching a puppy how to sit and stay. Our mind likes to be a puppy and go explore things. So you find the puppy, you gently bring it back, stay. Here's my concentration. Oh, there it goes again. Here we go, come back. And do it with compassion. All of this practice is with compassion for yourself. You may feel frustrated, but try to shift that into, oh, there I go again. How wonderful. It may feel hard, or you may get distracted 10,000 times in 10 minutes. How wonderful. That's 10,000 reps that you just did, noticing and returning to your concentration. Imagine if you did 10,000 push-ups, right? You're strengthening your mind. Any other questions about the state of mind while we're meditating?
I don't think so.
All right, well, let's practice. I use an app on my phone called Insight Timer. I find it very helpful. It's very affordable. It's a one-time fee, or it's free for most of the features. And we're going to start with 3 bells, and then it will end with 1 bell. So the 3 bells are kind of like ready, set, go, or ready, set, be still. So you can kind of get your final position during the 3 bells, but on that 3rd bell, it's the silence and stillness, and I'll guide us through this meditation. And then the bell will ring at the end, and we'll take a moment to kind of come back and gently open our eyes and readjust to being present to the space. So we'll practice this morning for 8 minutes. And for those of you watching at home, just find a comfortable place to sit with the posture that we talked about. Hips above knees, spine in a line, breath relaxed. And let the sound of the bell bring you to the present moment. And staying tuned into sound, begin to pay attention to any sounds in the space where you're sitting. Try not to judge them or even name them. Just notice, is it loud or soft? Is it abrupt? Is there a pattern to it? And just notice sound for what sound is. And if a thought arises, how wonderful. Return to the sensation of sound. And now shift your focus to the sensation of touch. Pay attention to all the places on your body that feel something, whether there's a slight current of air moving across your skin, the weight of your hands in your lap, your feet on the floor, the contact between your skin and your clothing. Just notice the sensations of pressure, of touch. And if your mind wanders, return to those sensations. Next, bring your attention to your breath. Begin to notice the movement of the inhale and exhale. Maybe that's the airflow right at the tip of your nose. Maybe it's the movement of your belly in and out as your diaphragm moves up and down and oxygen fills your lungs and carbon dioxide leaves. Just tune into your breath and any sensations that go along with it. And now find one part of your breath that will be your focal point. Whether it's the tip of your nose or your belly or another part of your breath, let that be your home base, your center. And as you concentrate on that spot, notice whenever your mind wanders, thoughts arise, feelings arise. And when you notice that, return back to that concentration point, that home base. And we'll practice that for a couple minutes. Each time you notice your mind wander, returning back to your focal point. If you notice your mind wandering, how wonderful. There you go again. It's absolutely normal. Once you notice, return back to your focal point in your breath. And that's the exercise of a repetition. Strengthening your mind, practicing concentration. And now I'd like you to let your mind be open. Let any thoughts enter and leave freely. Maybe your mind is completely blank. Maybe it's flooded with thoughts. Either way, let it be what it is, and just pay attention to these thoughts as they rise and fall. Begin to notice how the thoughts begin in your mind and how they leave. Notice if there's a space between thoughts. And as you notice this space between thoughts, pay attention to what that feels like. It's from this space that spontaneous compassion arises from within. And from this place of compassion, we practice kind intentions. And we start with sharing them with ourselves. So just repeat in your mind these phrases. May I be at peace. May my heart remain open. May I be happy. May I be loved. And may I be a source of healing for all beings. And this compassion can expand outward to other people in your life and other beings on the planet. So at the sound of the bell, I invite you to keep your eyes closed and just notice how you feel now compared to how you felt when we began the meditation. And with your next inhale, bring your attention to the light in this room, slowly opening your eyes. And the key thing is noticing how you feel now. And if this is a feeling that you would like to live from more in your day, throughout your life, then the practice of meditation may be for you. And as you saw today, it's relatively simple. There's a few things with body posture. There's a few things with mind, recognizing that it will get distracted and it will wander. And that's okay. One of the most important parts of this practice is having compassion with yourself and awareness that this is an ongoing journey. Just like you go to the gym to work out and exercise, this is mental exercise. And the more you practice it, the more rich your life will become. Thank you for sharing your practice with us today. I hope you join us next time.